Hello, Wisconsin. It's Dana Zulik, and we're having a little impromptu uh, live stream today. I hate the lighting in here, but whatever. So, how is everybody? It's Sunday afternoon, um, and we had a few things going on. I have been absolutely terrible at posting things and keeping you updated, but that's because I've been getting things in my own life back together, because it's really hard to put all my attention and focus where it needs to be when I'm distracted. And well, once you get to know me better and you know the full story, one of the things that happens with me is I let the distractions distract me. And at some point, I'm going to have to, well, now is the point. I'm going to have to start focusing where my strengths are being optimized, and I reach out and ask for others in the areas where I'm not so good. So, for anybody that's new, my name is Dana Zulik. I am a mom to a couple of teenagers. Fun. I'm also a combat veteran. I served in Iraq in 2004 to 2005. I served about 6 years in the military. I became a recruiter, and I love the Army. I love all the values that it taught. But it came with a lot of trauma. So that's, this is a safe space to talk about trauma. I'm going to do my best to share my story with people, but understand sometimes there might be a little bit of a trigger warning, because mental health is something that's really hard to talk about, right? And this is always going to be a safe space to talk about mental health, because I believe a lot of what's going on in our society today has a lot to do with a lack of understanding, a stigma. It's hard. It's hard, man. And mental health is something that not everybody has an understanding of, but don't we all know somebody that struggles? If it's not us ourselves, we have a family member, a loved one, whatever. Okay, so a little backstory for all of you and why I created this station. And I don't have a script or anything. This is totally unscripted, so I'm going to do the best I can. And hopefully the more I do this, the more comfortable it'll be and won't be so awkward. Okay, so the reason that I started this channel is because I have been embroiled in litigation for about 10 years now. This started in November of 14, and oh my God, we are almost 10 years in a month and a half. Holy crap, I can't even believe that. So I've been embroiled in litigation with the local government where I live here in Richfield. I basically moved here. So I'm a fourth generation descendant, and I live here in Richfield. My grandfather went to Amy Bell School, which is in the village of Richfield. And I have strong family roots here. And in 2014, property was available for sale. It had been for sale for about 10 or 12 years. And I was looking for a place for horses. Like, I got some horses, fell in love with horses, got really interested in the idea of horses providing therapy for things like PTSD, which I suffer from myself. And I decided that, why not look around and find a property in the area? So I started reaching out to different properties that were for sale, and someone had mentioned to me about the pit, the old quarry, the old gravel pit. And I'm like, oh, where's that? And it's here in Scenic Road, and it's a 40-acre abandoned quarry. And so I basically came up with a plan. I put together the business plan. My ex-husband was in the industry of construction, so I was able to find a way to start a business. So it wasn't just buying property that we would have a mortgage, but we could actually have income producing property for the horses to be at. Okay. Sorry if I'm jumping around a lot. I'm doing my best. Okay. So with that being said, I moved forward. We got the property. That's for another show and another day. And what basically happened is I ended up in a lawsuit with the Village of Richfield over property use. Okay. So the property that I purchased is an abandoned gravel pit. It was owned by a sand and gravel company, and they mined it from 1963 to about 1977, 78, somewhere in there. And there was a restoration plan, and the terms of the restoration plan were never followed. Now, the village likes to say different, that it had sunset, this and that, but they also declined to do, they were going to audit or something. And I said, go ahead and audit. That's fine. You can see if the conditional use permit was followed or not. So they declined to do that. They said that it was restored, which was only a year after saying in writing that it was abandoned. And we ended up filing as the plaintiffs against the Village of Richfield. And the whole case was based on, does the local government control the site, or does the state control it? So the question presented to the courts was, does Scenic Pit, my business, are they going to be regulated by the ordinances of the village, or is the state of Wisconsin going to be the only authority? And we lost at the circuit court level, and that was a really hard lesson for me because to me it was black and white. I had 10 different attorneys look at it. I wasn't going to go into something that I thought I was going to lose, because although many may argue I'm a glutton for punishment, I might not be that big of a glutton for punishment, but who knows? Here we are. So I decided, we filed the case and we lost at the circuit court, and I learned that that's called being hometown. So, judges are elected, and so they aren't sure how a controversy with the local government is going to go. So oftentimes they'll sort of default to the municipality, which is obviously a gross violation of, I believe, what our courts are supposed to be doing. But nonetheless, that is what happens. And I would love to make a change. That's what we're going to try to do on this channel, make changes where changes need to be made. And, that's just one of the many that needs to be made. I'm not so sure elected judges are exactly in our best interest as citizens. So then it went to the Court of Appeals, and it took about 1.5 years. And I'm telling you, when you're not from the world of law, like I didn't know anything. I didn't spend time in court. I had never had to go to court for anything. I think maybe a couple speeding tickets. But other than that, I was never really. I've never been arrested. To this day, I've never been arrested. I never. I pretty just quiet and laid back, and when it comes to that kind of thing. So, anyways, 1.5 years. And in the meantime, since we had lost, there was an injunction, which is in Wisconsin the way that we say a restraining order. So there was a restraining order / injunction barring us from starting the business pending litigation. So while the Court of Appeals decided the case, I wasn't able to operate the business. Well, unfortunately, this is also at the same time that I went through a divorce. And the whole thing just got really messy really fast. If you hear ducks in the background, that's our duck parade. We have a little hobby farm here, so you're going to hear a rooster here and there quacking, so they're all quacked up. But anyways, so the Court of Appeals took 1.5 years, and we didn't just win. We won unanimously, all 3 judges decided that the state of Wisconsin is in charge of regulating clean fill facilities. So for those that are new, a clean fill facility is basically where if they're digging out a foundation or basement or road projects, or they need to go somewhere with the dirt. And what better place than an abandoned pit that needs it? And it's a fact. That's just how it works. So we charge dump trucks to come and dump their dirt. We have operating costs, you know, the machine, the fuel, man hours, things like that. And so the final goal is that we want to open an equine therapy center / recreational therapy center for combat vets. So that's the ultimate goal. But unfortunately, it's taken 10 years of this battle to even get to the point where we can start concentrating on that phase. And I'm happy to announce that we are so close. We're so close to getting there, guys. But to all my veteran buddies out there, I just wanted to say, I see you. I hear you. There's a lot of organizations and places and people that, support your veterans. And a lot of my friends and I that are veterans, we talk about this, and what it comes down to is supporting veterans is an action. It's a verb. It's a something that you actually do, not just say. And it means so much to veterans when we actually have what looks like real support. I can't tell you what it means to feel misunderstood within your community, to have this whole suitcase full of just experiences that the people around you don't understand. And so as veterans, I think that's why the VFW, American Legion organizations for veterans, you know, for us, that's why they exist, because it's a place where veterans can come together to support each other because we understand each other. And I think what our society needs is a little bit more awareness and what support looks like towards veterans when you're not a veteran. Because I'm going to tell you right now, being a veteran isn't, with as much pride as it brings me, it has a lot of sadness. It has a lot of, here I go, don't disassociate, Dana. It has a lot of memories, ugly memories, things that nobody should ever have to be exposed to. And I signed up for it. It's what I volunteered to do. I'm proud to have done it. I would do it over and over again. But it comes with a lot of pain and a lot of isolation, kind of loneliness. You get a lot of feelings of loneliness, and it gets tough. So that's another thing we're going to talk on this channel about, is ways that you can actually support veterans. I'm not against veterans getting motorcycles or make home makeovers, or I'm not against that. Oh, believe me, veterans deserve it. But I think what we owe them as a society is understanding, is the ability to hear them and see them and say, you know what? I don't get it. I can't even imagine what you've been through, but I'm here for you. What do you need? So over time, I'll have links off to the side. 988 Crisis Suicide Letter and Veterans Crisis Line is an excellent resource. I encourage all of my veteran friends, you do not have to be suicidal to access the Veterans Crisis Line, and it's the same as the National Suicide Line, so 988, and I like to put that out there. And I just said some buzzwords, probably that YouTube won't like, but that's okay. I'm not monetized yet, and quite frankly, I'm encouraging the right thing, right? So I'm just using resources that are out there. Okay, so we won at the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals says, Richfield, you're not able to regulate the Scenic Pit. And were able to open our business eventually, start running, and now the shenanigans really get hyped up beyond even what they were before. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you a list of things that have happened to my family because of all of this. This is really hard for me to focus. Whoa, I'm jumping all over the board. Okay, so the most recent thing that has happened, that the reason why I'm live streaming today, is there's been ongoing, in the last 10 years, there's been an ongoing harassment by the village of Richfield. The sheriff's department is, in my personal opinion, being used as their pawn, but yet nonetheless they're participating and complicit. And there's some select neighbors that are just, quite frankly, guys, you're pretty awful. I've reached out numerous times. I'm willing to let bygones be bygones, with boundaries, obviously. But to this day, I've never been able to have a conversation where we can actually sit and be reasonable or come up with a solution that works for everybody. It's just a lot of hate and a lot of just groupthink, jumping to conclusions. It's been something. So basically, in the last 10 years, guys, for those of you that don't know the story at all, I'm kind of trying to give you fragments. And keep in mind, while I'm sharing this story, I have this dialogue going on of things that my critics have said about me in the past. Like, one of my favorites is attorney John Macy, who is the village of Richfield's attorney, literally said to me at the village hall around other people out in the open that I have distorted thinking patterns. And which, okay, who talks like that to somebody? But the other thing is well, how distorted can my thinking patterns be if I won in court and you lost, right? I mean, who has the distorted thinking patterns, right? I think what he's just trying to do is make me sound crazy, right? Because the crazier I am, that's the modus operandi. When you can't win on an issue, attack the person. And women, we all know. Men, they can just F this, F that, F this, F that. And when a girl gets upset and we tell somebody where it is, now I'm crazy. But, anyways, so I got to just keep talking and not sit here and think to myself, oh, am I having fragmented, I'm always self-checking myself. I really just care a lot about this. And guys, I never want this to happen to somebody else, what has happened to me. This should never happen in our country. It's happening all over our country. Abuse of government power, personal vendettas, using their government office to get back at people that they consider to be a threat. No. That is a go in the absolutely fucking no column, and it's going to stop. Okay? It's going to stop. And I've made it my life's mission to help people and to raise awareness of what happened to me so that it doesn't happen to anybody else, okay? So, what does it look like when you fight your local government and win, right? We all hear, don't fight City Hall. Don't fight City Hall, Dana. You're never going to win. How many times did I hear that? It never occurred to me, and I was naive. What if you fight City Hall and win? What does that look like? And let me tell you guys, I think losing, I'm glad I won. And I thank all of my supporters and people who have been there for me, my family, my friends. But winning puts a big, fat target. And, yep, puts a target on you. And the next thing you know, you can't do anything because your time is spent around trying to put out fires because now you've got people with power angry at you. So The sheriff's department has been dispatched to my home almost 700 times in the past 10 years. Most of them, I think, in the last 5. A lot of the incidences, I got to put together a graph. There's a list of all these things I got to do. And I'm going to say a shout out to Courtney right now. Hey, Courtney. Courtney came full time with us about a month ago. She is a combat veteran herself. She's Air Force. She's badass. Like, guys, badass, right? And I'm more of a project inventor. I'm the artist, I'm the thinker, I'm the talker, that kind of thing. Anybody who knows me well knows that I have a very, very creative side to me, and I know how to make money. My issue is on the back end of things, right? And anybody who understands business knows you need your Courtney's, and Courtney's her. So it feels so good to finally find that yin and yang in a work life balance with somebody who was deployed around the same time as me to the same area of Iraq. And we actually have quite a bit in common when it comes to how we were raised, both born in Wisconsin, both moved out to the Southwest. I was in Arizona. She was in New Mexico. She ended up in Arizona. Our high school teams played volleyball against each other, or was it basketball? I think it was basketball, Courtney, right? So anyways, we just have a lot in common. Joined the military around the same time, and we both have kids, and it's just been really refreshing to have her support and be able to have all these crazy ideas and have somebody who says, you know what, Dana, I see what you're doing. Let's here's how to make it happen. Okay, because I'm sort of like, let's get to 10. And she's like, right, but we need to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like there's numbers that we need to do first. And it's been really nice. So what happened this week? So Jim Healy is the administrator of the village of Richfield. And I'm telling you, I can't begin to describe the level of snark and, well, now in our conversation on Friday, it was like robotic almost. Like he talks to me like he's a robot. He just states very boilerplate language in a very monotone voice. It's like, bruh. That's what my son says. If he was sitting here right now, he'd be like, Mom, really? Bruh? Like, no, we don't bruh. We bruh. You don't bruh. Like, your mom. Bruh. But anyways, so we have this issue with the shoulder. And this is so petty, guys. And to any of you that are listening, I want to tell you, I recognize how petty this sounds, okay? But here we are. It's not petty to me because it's affecting my livelihood and it's affecting my business and how things are done. So one of the terms of running this clean fill site are the trucks have to leave the site, come on the site, leave the site, and they track mud onto the road. And we're supposed to take measures on best management practices to prevent that dirt from going on said road. Now, let's just say we're moving forward now. So we are following the best management practices. There was some dark times in the last few years where I sort of threw my hands up in the air because it just felt like it didn't matter what I did. It never seemed to make a difference. And so, yeah, the road would get dirty from time to time. And so back in, was it 2018? I forgot what year it was, but we had this boundary dispute. Okay, so this is everything. It has so many moving parts to it. I'm telling you. I'm like, I'll call the reporters. Like, there's a reporter for the Journal Sentinel, and he's like, Dana, you have like this amazing story. Unfortunately, it's gonna have to be in like a docu-series because like telling it in just like front page news story, it's sort of like, well, which thing do we focus on? There's so many moving parts. So I see a struggle now. I see you, reporter from the Journal Sentinel. I can see now. Where do you start? I live this every day, right? So it's hard for me to sort of narrow in. Courtney would tell me make a list. So anyways, this week what happened was I had noticed a couple weeks back that they were shouldering the road along Scenic Road. And this has happened, like, since this whole Scenic Pit thing, this has happened every time they shoulder the road. They skip my boundary line, and then they do the neighbor's driveway, right? And then, like, they shoulder everywhere else. So I decided to file a complaint. So I went in on Monday and I said, hey, for some reason, the village of Richfield is not shouldering my road on, the west side of Scenic Road along my property line. So I was given a letter. Let me see if I have it out still. So here it is. It's probably going to be backwards because I haven't figured out how to put things. What does it look like? Oh, I guess it is straight. Okay. So this is September 24th. Ms. Dana Zulik, 609 Scenic Road, signed by Jim Healy, the administrator. So we're just going to go ahead and read this right now. Okay. RE written correspondence to complaint submitted on September 19th, 2024 concerning shouldering on Scenic Road. Dear Ms. Dana Zulik, this letter serves as a formal written response to the complaint form that you submitted on September 19th of 2024 stating that the west side of Scenic Road along the Scenic Pit is not being maintained by shouldering. Shouldering will not occur in this area until materials from your business, which have been deposited into the ditch by your operations, are hauled away and the ditch line is restored so that the stormwater moves within the right-of-way as it was originally engineered to do. Sincerely, Jim Healy, Village Administrator, CC Board of Trustees, and Brooke Robinson, Wisconsin DNR via email. Okay, so I got that letter, and I'm like, really? We're here again? So this boundary, it's so silly. And I say it started with a boundary dispute with my neighbors. I'm on the fence about whether or not to share their names. I'm to the point I'm not saying anything untrue. There's nothing I can get for slander, or what's the other one? Johnny Depp thing. Well, anyways, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about defamation. There we go. Came to me. I'm not worried about defamation or libel because everything that I'm going to share here, to the best of my knowledge, is absolutely true. It is true. And I can prove that it is true. So what the heck? I'm just going to share names. So Doug Petrozatis and Cheryl Bailey, they live right next door. They're just to the south of me, right next to me. And we share a boundary line. And so when the Scenic Pit stuff happened, all of a sudden they started like putting a stake in the middle of the driveway that runs along the south end of my property line to the barn. And so I'd take the stake back out, they'd put it back in, I'd take it back out. I posted some legal information as to why I believe that this is my property line, because it is. And they didn't, whatever. So I think it was in 2017. It was, I think it was after we won the Scenic Pit case that same year, or the following year. I'm going to have to double check. There's going to be an episode where I share videos because, guys, I have this all on video. I have the whole thing on video because I went FaceTime live with it, and then it was used as evidence in court, so it was submitted as evidence, an exhibit, or as Emily D. Baker says, exhibity, from the Darrell Brooks case here in my hometown of Wisconsin, where I am right now. That whole fiasco happened about 15 minutes down the road. Yeah, that was a sad thing, but I digress. We have video of Thanksgiving weekend. The Doug Pedrozzati's came over with, I know one was at least his son, I'm not sure who the other fellow was, and they sawed my culvert. They had sawed my culvert in half and just took it and sharp edges and everything, threw it right onto my shoulder. And at that time, my kids, they were pretty small. I mean, they were, let's see, that was in 18, so they would have been 7 and 9, I think. You know, they're pretty small and they play and things like that. So I kind of point out, like, what are you doing? So I call the police. I'm like, hey, these guys, you know, that's criminal damage to property, because if they saw it in half, they're clearly ruining my half, even if they're right? And, you know, they're like, well, they say that's their half. And I'm like, well, I understood this to be a non-self-help state. Like, you can't just take it upon yourselves when there's a boundary dispute to, like, destroy someone else's property. And, you know, and then they were putting in stakes along the property line where they were claiming. I guess they were taking their big claim. They're claiming their stake to their property that they believe. And I said, well, no, this is criminal damage to property. If they have an issue with the boundary dispute, I have told them before, that's what the courts are for. I am going to continue to use my property the way that it's designed. A toddler can see where the boundary is. I mean, there's like mature trees. I've got aerial photography going back on the county's website from, like, I think 37 was the oldest one I found, but nonetheless, legally I didn't need it even to go back that far. But I think we officially on court records submitted it as like 1950. So 1950 is about the time that we used for the case to show that it was the boundary line. A lot of people, when it comes to boundary lines and older properties, there's certain laws that we have in place, right? So the GPS were the markers, that's great. But we didn't have those kind of instruments back 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And the family settled this property. In fact, the family I bought it from, isn't that crazy? I just love that. The family that I purchased this property from, settled this property in 1894, and then that's when the farm and the homestead was established, and there was barbed wire fencing that ran along the southern boundary line. And based on the research and from what I understand from our expert that we had in the boundary dispute case, because this did go to trial, he, you know, told me, like, yeah, no, this is how boundaries work, because back then they had to use, like, you know, they use chains. And well, we're in a kettle moraine area, which is a glacial area of the country, and so we have these beautiful kettles and moraines that, you know, with big mature trees, and, you know, there's just kind of hills, and it's just absolutely gorgeous where I live. If you guys ever get a chance, if you're not from this area, look up Holy Hill. It's absolutely beautiful. But I got distracted with the beauty of Holy Hill. But anyways, so it was very hilly. So, you know, the accuracy isn't what we have today with these, like, high-tech GPS instruments. And so sometime, I don't remember, maybe the 90s, maybe the mid-2000s, I don't remember exactly the time frame, but there was a surveyor that came out and put a stake in the middle of the driveway of the southernmost boundary line where this controversy is. So the Pedrozzatis believe that it's their road. Half of it is their road. And I continue to say, no, this is an actual driveway. That has been here, even if mathematically that you think it is half your road, it's been long since adversely possessed, because in Wisconsin we have adverse possession laws designed for this exact reason. It's not to steal other people's property. People are like, oh, people can just steal property. That's not stealing property. That's just acknowledging that, like, hey, this property has been used with all parties recognizing its use for this amount of time. So it's silly to go back and be like, hey, that's, you know, no, we're not doing that. So So here we are. And, you know, I'm not going to be the one to bring the case because I believe it's my property already. So finally, they sued me. They took me to court and I was a defendant. And so I had to prove in court, which costs $20,000, that this was my boundary. And yeah, needless to say, it was an interesting trial, to say the least. And I'll be sharing the transcripts from that trial at some point. But in summary, something that was shared at this boundary dispute, and yes, this all does tie in the end, guys. This is the backstory. These are all the moving parts that, quite frankly, helps me because I am a verbal processor. So I'm sort of just thinking out loud with y'all. So what happened is, as we're in the trial, you know, Doug Petrozates is up on the stand and his attorney is asking him questions. And one of these lines of questioning, he starts asking him about a meeting that they had with the village attorney and Jim Healy. And I'm like, and my attorney kind of looks at me like, what? And I'm like, is that bad? Like, that sounds bad to me, but I mean, this whole thing has been like Alice in Wonderland for me for how long? So, I mean, if my attorney's looking with a weird look, I'm like, uh-oh, there's actually something weird going on. And, you know, he kind of leans over to me and he says, this will be good for the 1983. And I'm like, so I kind of perk up, like, what's happening? And so his attorney starts asking him about a meeting that they had with John Macy, the village attorney, and Jim Healy at their Waukesha office. Now, they're now called the Municipal Law Group. And, or is it Municipal Law and Litigation? Because apparently they're super proud. They're super proud to represent communities by litigating with their opponents on the tax dollar. They love litigating. Let's litigate. We love it. Litigate. I really think they should just be representing the best interests of the people they serve, but nonetheless, so there's this meeting, these secret meetings, and Doug Petrozates, under oath, and I'm summarizing, you know, this is just me summarizing, under oath admits that the village of Richfield was basically, because I had replaced, by law, by the way, because there was already a culvert there, and the law permits me, based on my research I did, and with asking my attorneys, you know, to replace a culvert one time, right? Like, it's an old culvert. It wasn't quite dammed up yet, but it was kind of getting mucky. And, you know, we had a new culvert. Let's replace the culverts. Let's, you know, let the water move better. So they said since that was done and half of it was on their property, they were going to get sued. So Doug said they came up with this idea from this meeting to saw my culvert in half. What? So wait, whoa, back up, reverse. Actually, what? So, yes, I'll say it again. The Village of Richfield Administrator Jim Healy met with Attorney John Macy at his law offices in Waukesha. They met with Doug Petrozates, who has admitted we're in a boundary dispute, and says, well, since she replaced the culvert improperly, in our opinion, you're going to get sued too. So they came up with the idea to saw my culvert in half. Not, oh, let's let this boundary dispute play through the court system and see what happens. Or, oh, let's investigate, or let's reach out to Dana Zulik, or reach out to Dana's attorneys, or let's have a chitty chat, a little chitty chat. No, nothing like that, right? I had, even in the past, before all of this started, when they first started putting the stake in the middle of the road, I wanted to avoid litigation because I hate litigation. I have litigation fatigue. It affects my mental health. It affects how I live my daily life. It affects how much money I have, because everything that I do goes to attorneys. I owe people money. It's crazy. It's like, well, what's the name of this channel? A war? Local war? Yeah, it's no joke, people. When you have upset the apple cart, they just go on a roll. I'm telling you, the worst thing in the world is winning, is fighting City Hall and winning. It's damn. Ooh, went on a soapbox. Woo. Okay, refocus. So they saw my culvert in half, and sure as shit they do. They saw it right in half. And they proceed to put up the fence line, whatever. So I go Facebook Live with it. I'm like, hey, look, this is not okay. You got to take this up with the courts, this and that. And so they sue me. We go to court. Doug Petrozzades testifies that they basically met with the village of Richfield and came up with a plan to cut my culvert in half. And then now what happens? I mean, I am not like an engineer by any stretch of the imagination. I am not some erosion control guru, right? But simple common sense tells you if you're going to saw someone's culvert in half, there's probably going to start being some issues, right? So now the ditch is all messed up. All messed up. The ditch is just like, I'm not a ditch anymore. I'm like the opposite of a ditch. I just sorry guys, it's so ridiculous to talk about out loud. It's so ridiculous. I'm like a ditch bitch. Is that like a ditch witch? So now the ditch is messed up. So one day the village of Richfield, it's like the clown cars, like they all come driving up in the village of Richfield stuff. I'm like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? Like, there should be music or something. I don't know. And I see the DPW come along, and they've got a little bit of topsoil, and they got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they regrade the shoulder. They leave a fucking mess all over the fucking road. There's just dirt everywhere. They don't perform any erosion control measures, which includes seeding, topsoil seed, mulch. That's where you see like those blankets on the side of the highway after a construction project. They don't put any stone in the side of the ditch line, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. They don't do any of that. And I'm like looking like, what in the world? And this topsoil, guys, wasn't like, this was like the kind of shit that's like super expensive. And like when it dries, it's got that little film on the top that just sort of, the lightest breeze goes across it, and it has this like, it had that. That was the kind of dirt they were using. They weren't messing around. They're like, dude, we're just gonna put like the worst kind of mud ever on the side of the road, not let it grow grass. And then what do they do a few months later? They send a letter to the DNR. Dana Zulik's dirt has settled in the ditch line, and the materials from her business have, caused this dirt mess, this chaos of fucking mud and dirt everywhere. And I'm sitting here like, that's your dirt. Like, hey guys, I have not kept the road as clean as it should be. Okay, I get it. I get my fair share of fines. I'm in court right now over it. I can get better at keeping the dirt off the road, okay? Just like we all can, every construction company. But I promise you that is not dirt from truck tires. It's like graded, oh, I just can't even. It took me 2 years back and forth with the DNR to explain to them that this is not dirt from trucks. The village literally came and put this dirt on this section of road, and they're legit in front of everybody's eyes. I've got the pictures. I've got the like literally admit. It makes me feel crazy, like gaslit. Like you're right. Done. You've won. I'm crazy. I am a crazy person now. because you keep telling me that things are happening that aren't happening, or things that have happened haven't happened. And at some point you're just like, oh my God. There was this guy I was talking to, a hydrogeologist at the Department of the Interior, and he made me laugh so hard because I was like, man, I feel like I'm living in Alice in Wonderland. He goes, oh, baby. He's like, you're not. Alice wasn't the crazy one. It was all the things around her. So you're Alice. You're like in the Twilight Zone. He made me laugh. But anyways, there I am, trying to figure out how to explain to the DNR, not get more fines, that this dirt is coming from Richfield, that they didn't properly do it, this and that. So the DNR actually advised me. They said, Dana, we looked into this, and the village is actually in non-compliance with their stormwater and erosion control measures that they do. So now the village of Richfield has to spend tens of thousands of dollars hiring this company, right? Because they pretty much put the spotlight on themselves. Like, they're trying so hard with this, like, obsession of trying to get me in trouble, that finally the DNR is sort of like, well, yeah, you guys aren't so, like, good yourselves, right? Like, you're not really up to par and doing all the things you're supposed to be doing either. And so that's what happened. I thought this had all resolved, and here they are, not ditching my line, not putting the ditch materials in, which looks nice, it makes it look prettier. They're not painting. I think they did some crack filling, but other than that, there's been no painting. There's been no shoulder work, nothing. So that brings me up to this complaint and this letter that Jim Healy sent me. I also stopped and talked to the DPW, and I asked one of the gentlemen there. I don't know if he's the supervisor or not. He seemed to be pretty knowledgeable and had maybe some sort of boss role, right? He's at least a crew leader or something. But he says, I said, hey, are you going to shoulder along Scenic Pit there on the west side? And he goes, oh, not at this time. It's not, this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, are you being directed by anybody to not ditch the line? And, I'm stuck in the middle. Oh, okay. Now, I also have spoken to a previous DPW, a Village of Richfield DPW worker, who also told me that they were regularly told in meetings not to ask questions when it comes to the Scenic Pit. He was part of that shouldering operation. They were all confused, like, why are we not doing this the way we usually do it? Like, why are we doing this? They were told, don't ask questions. It's just silliness. He even made the comment that his boss was like, hey, which is probably not admissible because it would be hearsay. I guess I could put the boss up on the stand if he admits it. But, he would say things like Jim has it in for Dana, or Jim has it in for the Scenic Pit, and, which is, so whatever. So then I called Jim and I'm like, hey, what's this letter all about? Like, what materials? Like, I was told I'm not allowed to touch the shoulder. Like, if I were to repair what you're claiming is happening, like if I'm to remove the materials on the side of the road in the ditch line so that it's restored, so that the stormwater moves within the right of way as it was originally intended to do, if I'm not allowed to do that. So I was like, well, I don't understand what he's like, nor, I said, Jim, I'm not allowed to remove materials from the shoulder. I was told I'm not supposed to do any work in the shoulder. He goes, nor were you directed to do any work in the and I'm what? Why would you be directing? I don't understand. And then it dawns on me, this guy is still, he cannot accept the fact that the state of Wisconsin has removed the right of local governments to regulate this property. It's like this weird obsession. And so anyways, so I get on the phone with him and I'm talking to him about this. Oh, nor did I direct you. And I said, Jim, we've already been through this. And I, mentioned the thing with the DNR and mentioned this and that. And he basically is like, Dana, I will talk to the DPW supervisor and see what his plans are, and I'll get back to you within 30 days. I said, well, I'd love to have a meeting. I'm not interested in having a meeting with you at this time. In the tone and the robotic nature and the really, anyways, it's just so frustrating. So now I'm going to go on a soapbox for a little bit since we're 50 minutes into this show. I wish there were people watching live right now, because then I could answer some questions. So I don't know if anybody happens to jump on and is listening. I guess you could ask me some questions. My friends say that there's a lot of questions that people have, and it would be cool to be able to share that on this channel. So I don't know, maybe I should ask her for a list of questions. I can always go on live in a little bit, do 2 shows today, and maybe try to answer some most commonly asked questions within the community, because there is quite a divide in the community. My family has consistently is harassed. We have had our property vandalized uncountable number of times. Our fences keep being destroyed. I put up 3 separate fences, and all of them get damaged, and their way of getting back at me is to try to get me as many animal at large tickets as they possibly can, because I'm the world's worst fence builder. I mean, since the beginning of humankind, like since the beginning of the human species, I am literally like, I cannot figure out a fence. Guys, I can figure out a fence. But like in their minds, Dana Zula can't figure out a fence. What is she doing? She's so irresponsible. She can't figure out a fence. Well, you keep coming over and ruining my fence. You keep damaging my fence. You keep cutting my fences. You cut my electric fences. You damage the gates on my wood fences. It's disgusting. And I get a $500 ticket for every time my damn chicken crosses the road. So it's an ongoing joke. Why did the chicken cross the road? So Dana Zulik gets a ticket, right? I've got 100 of these guys. 100 tickets. I think on the docket, you can still see like 60 something, because they do these things when there's so many. They'll be like, oh, we'll wrap up 5 into 1, and then you only pay 200 instead of the 500, and And I kind of sort of did that in the beginning. I think I'd have to go back and look at the records. I don't anymore ask for a jury trial for every single one. And then we've had to brief out things like jurisdictional issues. I pay for the jury fee. We go through jury selection, pretrial hearings, and then boop, they dismiss it before the trial. Which, by the way, there's a 7th Circuit case that says that that's literally abuse of government power, and that is a violation of Section 1983 and a campaign of harassment in violation of the First Amendment. So basically, because I do things like YouTube now, before it was flyering and showing up at meetings and speaking out publicly against the absolutely unacceptable corruption going on in the village of Richfield, they have put a target on my back. I realize that to people that don't know the whole story, it sounds paranoid. Believe me, I myself feel like a paranoid schizophrenic, because, I'll go to my counselor. I'm like, dude, like, I literally feel like everybody's watching me. She's like, but they are. So I just challenge you guys, go check out Richfield Residents Against Dump. And literally on one of their pages, it's a picture of a kid holding binoculars. Like legit, bro. Like, these people were formed to put me out of business, and they're still current on the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. They still update every year. And they are the habitual callers. They probably comprise the majority of, like, overwhelming majority of the calls for these animal at large tickets. And the cops come into my home over 655, almost 700 times now. It's just harassment. It's disgusting. It's an abuse of your power as local officials. Anybody who just listens to the local government and what they have to say about the residents is doing a disservice to our values, to our Constitution. Because I'm telling you what, man, when you put somebody in a position of power, even at the local government, people naturally trust them. But I'm telling you, you can't. I learned the hard way, guys. I learned the hard way. We need accountability. We need reasonable representatives leading our communities that are willing to work with the community and be okay with not always agreeing, right? Like, I'm not asking you to like me. I'm not asking you to be my drinking buddy. I don't really drink that much, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for you to do your job, follow the oath of office. And if the legislative and the judicial branch has required that something be done a certain way and recognized a certain way, it is your executive function. It is your executive branch of government duty to follow it. You don't have to like it. Nobody's telling you to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to think it's okay. It might not be, but you must do it. You must follow it. You must respect it. You must do your job. It is not appropriate behavior to retaliate against somebody because you're upset that they won against you in court. I've heard it all. I've heard, you've embarrassed our community. Dana, we told you no, and you didn't listen. I've heard it all. I've heard, you bastardized the uniform, or, oh, the other day was really weird. I was coming out of a meeting. This was 2 or 3 months ago. I'm coming out of a meeting over the village of Richfield. I don't think a lot of people know, it was never a municipal fire department. It was a private, I guess they say nonprofit. There's some question as to whether they violate the terms of qualifying to be a nonprofit, but nonetheless, they claim to be nonprofit. And now the village of Richfield, they put it on a referendum. The people voted to have, I guess they're buying it. They're donated. I think the fire department is being donated to the municipality and all this stuff. Anyway, so I'm at this meeting, and I'm like leaving the meeting after all is said and done. And at the meeting, I had spoke basically just like, you guys say that the calls have increased by this much in 10 years. Well, guess what's happened in the last 10 years with 600 and almost 700 calls? I mean, how much of those calls are making up the portion of how much you're claiming we've had this increase of calls? So I'm basically there just doing my stuff that I always do. You always talk about the pit, Dana. You always talk about the pit. Yes, I lived the pit. Sorry. I'm very passionate because this is more than about the pit. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you. If it can happen to you, it can happen to your loved ones. If it can happen to your loved ones, it could happen to their loved ones. We need to get out of this mentality in our country. If it's not affecting me directly, I don't give a flying bleep. We need to get out of that mentality, guys. Wake up. We need to get back to what empathy actually looks like, what compassion actually looks like, what rights actually look like. And what rights are is when they're being violated is not just our right as citizens to stand up to our government. It is our duty. Now imagine myself going through this and having that extra layer of oath that I took to protect and serve. And I take it very seriously. And I challenge anybody to say, oh, that sounds cheesy, or gosh, that sounds so like, whatever. It is what it is, guys. Okay? I didn't go through what I went through and lost the friends that I lost to come back to a community that is so drunk with power on their local board that they don't know how to treat people with decent human kindness. That's it. That's all I ask for. Decency, common sense, all the things that I think people in our country, well, even worldwide, but in our country are looking for. Common sense. Stop the bullshit. Like, there's no reason on God's green earth that any of this stuff with the pit had to escalate to the point that it did. To the point where you have financially just completely tried to financially. Guys, I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on. But barely, but hanging on. But I've had all these extra obstacles, you know, and then I've got people, oh, you should be successful. You should do this. You should do that. And we're going to get into that on other shows. We're going to get into what it looks like when you're the little guy trying to start a business and you're up against a powerful, not just the powerful local cronies on the board. We're not talking. I have this theory that I've learned through my experiences, right? It only takes one or two people to be corrupt in the government, right? It only takes one or two. It's hard to get a whole bunch of people to jump on board, and but these one or two people are actually the ones benefiting. Okay, I know who my two people are, and you might be surprised by that. It is my belief on my information that I have that our village president and our village attorney are the corrupt ones. It is my belief those are the two corrupt ones. I believe Jim Healy is passionate about his job. I think that he is caught up in believing the bullshit that's fed to him. And he's so far into the groupthink right now, guys. And for those of you that don't know what groupthink is, it's a psychological phenomenon that happens to us as human beings. We're all victims of it. I'm going to call it a victim because really it is just an awful mindset to be stuck in, right? So when you think of groupthink, it's a psychological phenomenon that happens where you can throw facts at people, facts, and the people are so married and loyal to whatever idea they already have amongst their group of peers, right? It doesn't matter how many truths you tell them. I could say, hey, guys, I have the cure for cancer. And they're going to be like, you caused cancer. It's just an example. I'm not saying they say that. I'm saying that's the idea behind groupthink. So I believe Jim Healy is so wrapped up in this groupthink. And I think he basically has participated in helping corrupt people continue to be corrupt. That is my belief. Knowingly or not is for somebody else to ask. I don't pretend to understand what runs in that man's mind. All I know are the things that he does are unacceptable. They're unconscionable. And quite frankly, he has no business leading, being an administrator in our community. So with that being said, let's move on to some of the things he has done. Okay. In 2010, Jim Healy, was it 2010? Yeah, the 10-year comprehensive plan. 2014. Guys, we're going to have to do a whole show. Once I figure out how to get graphics on through StreamYard, I don't know how to do all that fancy stuff yet. I'm a YouTuber junkie. I love my law tubers. My favorite shows are, I listen regularly to Emily D. Baker, Melanie Little, shout out girl, The Glarer. Might have a little crush on The Glarer, but he hates that. I can tell he gets embarrassed every time somebody says that. The girls are always like, oh, Will. And I'm over here dying like, well, they're not wrong. Just saying, take a compliment, Will. Take a compliment. Someday if you ever see this, which you probably won't, take a compliment. Because you're adorable. But anyways, Turtle Boy. I do listen to Turtle Boy. Man, Aiden, if you ever watch this, I know you got so much going on, but I'm telling you, like sometimes I'm like, oh no, I'm damn, Gina, like wow, but you got balls, bro. and you're talented, and I'm not always a fan of your methods, but you know what, you're getting her done, and sometimes you just gotta get loud and ridiculous, and I get it. I get it. I fully support you. I support Karen Reed, what's happened to her, and if she ever watches this, it's something. It's something when you're standing there. I'll never forget. It still gives me chills to think about it. That clip of her where she says to people, she says on camera, she says, "It feels like we're shouting to the world, but nobody wants to hear it." And I know what that feels like. My life and my freedom has never been at stake like yours has, when it comes to the potential for prison and a criminal charge. But in some sort of way, I have been a prisoner for 10 years already. And it's hard. You can shout from the rooftops. You try, like me personally, I wasn't looking at like a crime charge or anything like that. But well, actually they did threaten to throw me in jail. We'll go over that another day too. So as I guess I have been threatened with jail time, but not for murder. I couldn't even imagine. But I do know what it's like to live as a prisoner, in the court system, in just this crazy system of people with too much power trying to make decisions, things they have no business making. I heard once in Wisconsin we had this office called the Office of the Intervener, and I guess Tommy Thompson, his administration got rid of it. I'll have to do some fact checking on all that. But where I'm going with this is I thought that was a fantastic idea, the Office of the Intervener. Now, keep in mind, it's still a bureaucracy. It's still a government agency. So there's always questions. It's a matter of who's on it. And, laws are only as good as those that enforce them. I mean, that's a really hard one to accept, right? Radical acceptance is my new best friend, guys. Okay. But anyways, because I'm that guy that's like, but it shouldn't be that way. But we should be able to. Yeah, I can should and should all day long, should and shouldn't, but it's just not it. Sometimes radical acceptance is the way to go, and we have to accept the fact that the laws are only as good as those who enforce them, and our laws aren't. They need a lot of reform too. But even the ones that do exist to protect this kind of situation from happening to people, the way for a citizen to do it is to basically occur it's to their own expense, right? So I have to finance litigation, and I am not a wealthy person. I have attorneys that have believed in me and financed their representation of me to a certain portion. And I've made arrangements or whatnot with them, but I'm telling you, litigation has cost me roughly, for the Scenic Pit first phase, $125,000. The second phase, that was approximately, and I'm doing phases based on my own timeline, guys, nothing like court records or anything like that. It's kind of broken up into like which attorney I had when and why and what we were doing. I think the second phase, I'm up to about 100. We're not even go the divorce route because that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Plus, I don't want to talk about my divorce on YouTube, but it was expensive. Is expensive. The village of Richfield, now, on the other hand, I can prove, it was like as of 3 years ago, it was up to like over $800,000 they've spent of tax dollars. And guys, I'm not talking about just, they filed okay, so they have insurance through the Wisconsin League of Wisconsin Municipalities. There's insurance. And so what happens is when they get sued, they have to make a claim on that policy, and the policy provides them with representation. So I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying, oh, those attorneys cost that much and the insurance paid it. Oh, but the taxpayers only pay for that's not what I'm talking about. That's extra. I think it was over $100,000 for that, because Richfield wasn't okay with just having one law firm represent them, that the insurance paid for, but they also simultaneously paid the village attorney, John Macy. His firm made over $800,000 on my case alone. $800,000. $800,000 on my case alone. They also hired lobbyists. At some point, there was some sort of environmental, what do you call them? Hello. I hear Melanie Little talk about it all day with that, with the Carly Gregg case. Experts, thank you. This is like word today. So we had that. They got like an environmental expert to basically find out if we've done something wrong. I don't know. Not much has come of it yet. I don't know. So then what they do is they get into these things where they call everybody. Call. And then they call the government agencies, the DNR. In the beginning, I know the DNR had to actually designate one of their staffers to take Scenic Pit calls. Janelle Brangen's office got inundated with phone calls. Alberta Darling's office got inundated with phone calls. I worked closely with my state representatives to try to work with the village of Richfield, open up the line of communication, open up the between the neighbors and the village. And basically the only message they ever got back to them was, we want her out of our town. We want her to leave. And so she said, well, she's going to win in court. Because at this time, I believe we were waiting to go to whether or not the Wisconsin Supreme Court was going to review the Court of Appeals decision. And she told them from what I understand, what she'd been advised, the state representative, was that, basically less than 1% or something crazy actually gets reviewed by the state Supreme Court. And since my case was well-settled case law from 1996, we were just reaffirming old case law. It's really hard. I'm not an attorney. I will never pretend to be an attorney. I have attorneys tell me I should be an attorney. I actually had a judge actually in a different case I was in, this was maybe 6 months ago. My attorney withdrew from the case, and he claimed that I wasn't communicating properly with him, and he does this 2 weeks before trial, and the judge was you could tell the judge was just pissed off that this attorney was abandoning me, in my moment of need. And he says, I'm going to tell you right now, I have had Ms. Zulik in my courtroom representing herself in a jury trial, and she conducted herself better than most seasoned attorneys. She did closing argument with no notes, and he says, I'm not going to sit here and entertain this idea that she's hard to communicate with. So I thought that was, I took it as a compliment. But anyways, I digress again. So where was I at? Oh, so Janelle Brangen tells them, she was our state representative at the time, and, she tells the community, the chances of the Supreme Court, changing their opinion on this is slim to none. It was a unanimous decision back in 1996. It was unanimous at the Court of Appeals the past time, and they're not going to probably overturn this. But you know what? She still wants to work with you. We're willing to talk about operation hours, number of loads. We want her gone. That's all we'll accept. You can only try. You can only try. I've tried, guys. I really have. For those of you out there that I know all the rumors. I know what the people say. That's fine. I've learned to live with it. There's worse things in the world than somebody not liking me. Because for every person that doesn't like me, I have many more that do like me. I don't know. I don't know how to say it because it's kind of a funny thing to say. Um, it's not that I care. I mean, I guess it's a natural human emotion to want to be liked, but I guess what I'm going to say is if you don't like me, I'm not spending much time thinking about you. I know that much. And clearly, you guys spend a lot more time thinking about me than I think about you because holy crap, Oli. I'm going to end up thinking about you almost as much as you think about me, just going over the emails and voicemails and texts and you guys. I've been doing open records on all of this stuff since all of this began. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of correspondence. And it was really hard. Actually, I got to admit, last year, I went through a really hard time with my mental health because after I did these open records requests, I actually let them sit around for a while. It's not fun to sit there and read a bunch of shit talking about yourself. Oh, what am I going to do today? I'm going to relax. I'm going to sit out. I'm going to sit outside by the animals and have a dirty martini and read people shit talking me. This is not my idea of like a fun afternoon, right? I'm not like, woo, let's talk about, let's read some stuff about how much everybody hates me. So it took a while. And when I finally got around to it and I started looking into it, what I thought might be happening became a fact. I think I was more comfortable when I wondered if it was happening, right? Like, oh, these guys seem like, wow, they're really after me. What if they're this? What if they're that? And whatever, Dan, you're thinking, blah, blah, blah. And then I do these open records and I start reading these emails and I'm like, what? Like this dude that lives back here, Mark Minsky, he wants my house condemned because his reason was my siding is in disrepair, my blinds are broken, and something about an eyesore or something. Okay, well, I'm not the one that lives in an HOA. Okay, let's start there. Let's start with the fact that my whole life has been completely wrapped up in standing up for my rights. I had a choice. Guys, I'm not going to blame other people. I chose this fight. It chose me. That's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it, right? I guess I don't like to think of myself as a victim, but like if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. I mean, so I guess did I pick this controversy or did it pick me? And I think what happened really is both. I think that something wrong happened that I saw was unjust. I have a strong sense of justice, as a lot of veterans do, and I, I'm a thinker and a free thinker, and I'm not okay with what was going on. So yeah, it happened to me, but I chose to accept the challenge. How about that? So I could have just walked away. I could have just threw my hands up in the air. I could have said, you know what, I got better things to do. But you know what? In the end, it came down to, in my research, it wasn't just happening to me. This is a culture. This is an ongoing custom in our community. This is not the only community it happens in, but it's a great case study. It's a great case study because, just like the Karen Reed situation in Massachusetts is a great case study, of what it looks like when your local officials have too much power and control. And this is what it looks like. It looks like people's reputations being destroyed. It looks like rumors that are absolutely ridiculous. And quite frankly, guys, some of these rumors are laughable. I mean, my friends and I, we have the... Well, let me tell you how far these rumor mills stretch, okay? Children have actually approached me, like legit children. So several years ago, I was with my daughter at her best friend's house, and they have a pool, and the neighbor boy was over, and he's like, "Hey guys, Dana Zulik's horses were in our backyard the other week." Now, this kid clearly had no idea that I'm Dana Zulik, and he's telling me the story. So I just kind of give him a smile, and, you know, he's just adorable. The kid must have been like 8, 9, you know, in that range, you know. And my friend looks at him and says, well, do you know who this is? And she points to me, and he's like, no. Well, this is Dana Zulik. And he's like, and you look white as a ghost. The blood drains from his face. And he's like, oh. And I said, do I not, does it not seem like what you thought I would be? Or like, what's that reaction? He goes, why did you dig that big hole? I said, oh, you know what, bud? I didn't dig that hole. Somebody else dug that hole. I'm just filling it back in. Oh, I better tell my parents that, because I don't think they know that. It's just adorable. You know, kids try to, but that tells you how much contention was in the community. Even these little kids, you know, they're hearing about it, and, you know, they're like, in their mind, like, why would she even dig that hole in the first place? Adorable. But some of these other ones, man, wow. Something. My advice to everybody is, if there's somebody in your community that you hear a lot of smack talk about, just seems, you know, like the bully mentality, right? It would probably mean a lot to that person if you actually went up to them and asked them what their side of the story was, because there's two sides to every story. And I'm not trying to pretend that there isn't a side to the other people's side of the story, because I see them and I hear them and I disagree with them. Nonetheless, you know, there is another side. But I'm here for truth, and truth has endurance, lies have speed. I've been at this for 10 years now. I'm hoping to get some real change happening here soon. My hope is that the Village of Richfield doesn't have Jim Healy as our administrator for very much longer. Our board needs to find a new administrator. We need a new board. We need people who are interested in our community to run for village board. I ran a few times, as many of you know. As much as I would be honored to serve on the board, I never expected to win. This has been an uphill battle from day one. And I encourage everybody, please get active, get aware, ask questions, find out who the people representing your community are, what motives they might have to represent it, right? Our governments were never supposed to be a career politician type mentality. And I know in local communities, it's not a full-time job to be on the board, but there are board members that have been involved in politics since like literally the 70s still. Like, I'm talking like in the Village of Richfield, we have that stereotype thing going where like, it's like the old white male, period. We did have a young, spry female several years back, but that didn't last long. And from what I understand, there were complaints against the village president for how he treated her at meetings, on record. Then there is a female, but that serves now. I don't know her. Nothing about her has impressed me. She hasn't reached out to get anything from me. I saw her get upset when she was going to be recorded at a meeting one time, and you don't have a right. You need permission to record. No, girl. If you're going to serve on the board, you are subject to the public videoing you. Like, there is nothing you can do about that, ma'am. I do get a little spicy at board meetings. I've been following the Canton Select Board meeting. I can't stop laughing about that. Oh, Aiden. But anyways, I would say I get as spicy as some of those people, but not quite. But there was a meeting that I went to. They had changed the time again, so I went after the meeting. And basically I told them, hey, look, I'm not okay with this. This is what's happening. I've reached out to this board member. there's one board member that told me several years ago, oh, you know, you do all these open records requests and you think you're going to find a smoking gun. And I told him, dude, you don't think I found a smoking gun? I've found at least 5 smoking guns. It's actually probably more like 15 or 20, but 3 that I can think of that are just like open shut, nothing to even like, literally it is obvious what you are doing and you will be held accountable. And so I reminded him that no, you know, it takes time. This isn't happening overnight. You know, I will be filing in federal court. I have made that clear to everybody. You know, but this is a continuing campaign of harassment, and it just keeps going and going and going, and it has not stopped since it started, guys. So if you're thinking you've got the statute of limitations to lean back on, not sure it's gonna work out for you that way. At the very least, it all comes in as evidence, because it shows the pattern of discriminatory and arbitrary treatment for something that never had happened. 10 years of this. It has taken a toll on me financially. It's taken a toll on me economically. I was a photographer before this. I had a very successful photography studio. I'm looking to get back into that. So my 2 passions now are photography and raising awareness and fighting back when it comes to local government and helping veterans. And what does it look like for our government to represent the people without abusing their power? What does that look like? What does supporting veterans look like? What does having human decency look like? We shouldn't be, we should all take accountability for the things that we're contributing to our society or not contributing, right? So anyways, that's my soapbox. I didn't have anybody watching live today. That's okay. It's okay. We got to start somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my friend. I'm going to try to get together a list of questions. And if you guys watch this later and you have any questions for me, please post it in the chat. And when I go live next time, I'll have the questions that I can answer. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like to help the algorithm, even though I think I said some wrong buzzwords. That's okay. I'm not monetized yet. But, you know, I definitely want to start getting views so we can start getting the attention. I mean, this is so brand new. If you can share this page with other people, you know, that like the raw hits that I don't know all the verbiage yet, guys, but, you know, that helps too. So if you can do all the YouTube subscribe, like, share button things, I will forever be grateful. And enjoy your Sunday afternoon. To all the people that I know down south that got hit with the hurricane and the bad weather, my prayers go out to you genuinely. I may not pray the way others pray, but in the way that I pray, they go out to you. And yeah, so have a blessed day. I love every single one of you that listens to this, and whether or not you believe it. Have a great day, and we will chat in the next couple of hours. Bye.